Have you ever replayed a conversation in your head over and over again? Maybe you felt like you didn't speak up enough, or maybe you felt like you misbehaved and spoke up too much. Whether you're drowning in self-doubt or simmering in resentment, it's a clue that you have self-abandoned. And you may not realize that the primary source of stress and health issues is leaking emotional energy due to self-abandonment, or how I like to call self-betrayal. Today, I'm sharing how you can trade exhaustion for energy and self-doubt for confidence by learning how to stop self-betraying. Self-betrayal is anything that we do that goes against our authentic selves and undermines our well-being. First, I want to talk about the real reason that you're exhausted or the real reason that you might be lashing out. It has to do with energy leaks. I want to talk about the way that you maintain your energy the same way that we would talk about draining a battery. If you leave a battery on, your phone, for example, on all day long, and you never charge it, it's going to drain. We only have so much physical energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy. We just almost only have so much energy. It's a renewable resource. So let's think about energy leaks, emotional energy leaks. Let's use the example of physical energy. Let's say that you're on a treadmill all day long. You're doing your work, you're on your calls, you're taking meetings, whatever you do. But while you're doing all that, you're on a treadmill. You're just running a treadmill all day long. And so when you get home, right, you're probably not going to go exercise. You're probably not going to clean your house because you've drained your physical energy. You have been working all day long, and there's only so much physical energy that you have. You have to then renew it. Emotional energy is the same exact way. And here's the thing. With emotional energy, we are running emotions in the backdrop of our lives 24/7. And the negative ones really deplete you. And the way that we have the most negative emotions tend to be from some form of self-abandonment or self-betrayal. What does that mean? That means that the real reason that you're exhausted isn't because of your kids or your work or all the demands put on you. It has to do with the fact that you are leaking emotional energy, most likely because you are not in alignment with who you truly are. And when you stop abandoning yourself, you don't need all of the self-care things, the bubble baths, the drinks with the girls, all of that stuff to rejuvenate you, because you naturally feel rejuvenated because you never leaked the energy to begin with. I always say there's no spa day special for self-betrayal, because it doesn't matter all the massages, all the exercise, all the whatever in the world. If you are betraying and abandoning yourself all day, every day, none of that is going to refuel you with energy. Self-betrayal or self-abandonment isn't just one big thing. It's the little tiny things that we do all day long that erode our energy. And most of the time, we don't even realize we're doing it. Why? Because it's become a habit. It's a habit just like brushing your teeth. You're doing it completely unconsciously. It's a memorized, mindless behavior. And in a little bit, I'm going to get into some of the other aspects of this that have to do with how we identify with why we think we have to do the things that are causing us to self-betray. Okay, so here are some examples. Over-functioning or overworking. Anybody familiar with that one? When I was young and I worked in hospital wings as a psychiatric social worker, I remember I would be sick as a dog, but I would drag myself to work. Why? Because I thought, oh my God, I don't want anybody to have to take over my workload, and that means the other social workers will have to do these things. Well, post-COVID era, we all have a different thought now and think to ourselves, well, I don't think these people would appreciate our getting sick from us either. So it's actually better to stay home. But I'm sure you can relate. Sometimes you feel like, oh my God, I'm letting somebody down, and so I have to do all of these things. Sometimes it has to do with being in an addictive relationship. If you're familiar with that, you overfunction for the person that's underfunctioning. Maybe you've got a kid that you're desperate to have doing something, and so you overfunction for that person. These are all little self-betrayals and self-abandonments because we're draining our own energy. Another type of self-betrayal is when you say yes because you feel selfish to say no. Now, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I said a lot of these things are unconscious. Sometimes we immediately get a hit of an emotion, say selfishness, and what that feels like in the body. And we are so familiar with it, we don't even know it happens, and we don't want to feel that way. And so we go ahead and we do the thing, or we don't take the time for ourselves, for example, because we feel selfish if we don't. But what ends up happening when you do that? You feel resentful. That's what happens when you do that. Resentment is the absolute key to knowing that you have abandoned yourself. As soon as you feel resentment, you know, oh my God, where did I self-betray? Where did I do something that caused me to feel this way? So just as a simple example, let's say you were asked to bring something to a party and you didn't want to bring that thing to the party, or you were asked to bring the main dish to the party when it wasn't even your party. You bring the whole main dish and you feel resentful. Maybe you're dropping little hints. Maybe you feel like a victim, whatever it is. You did it because you would have felt selfish not to. She was really under stress. The person, whatever the reason is that you've told yourself. You told yourself it's selfish not to do this. And so you went and did it and you betrayed yourself. And this really brings me to my next point, because a lot of people will say that they did something because it's the right thing to do. Ask yourself now, how many things do you have in your mind that you just think are the right thing to do? I can't tell you how many people I talk to, whether it's clients or friends or whatever, that they won't even entertain the idea of not doing something because this is the right thing to do. We should do this. And a lot of us are brought up, well, all of us are brought up memorizing these behaviors from our past, the way our parents did things, the messages we got from society, a good girl does this, a good boy does that. It's the right thing to do. But let me tell you, there is no court of the world. There is no court of the world. There is only right for you. And in the world that we live in today, where there is so much divisiveness and so much judgment and so much morality, like this is right, this is wrong, this is a biggie. But every time you do something that is the right thing to do in your mind, remember, your mind made that up. Your mind made up that it was right from a past experience. There is no universal law that says that anything is right or wrong when it comes to these things. And when you do that and you overextend yourself, you betray yourself. So be careful of the things that you are doing to the tune of it's the right thing to do anything else would not be right. And remember that when you're judging other people having done what you think is the wrong thing, it only means that you have a very harsh inner critic, that you're judging yourself. And again, that's a self-betrayal. Okay, another way that we self-betray all the time, and this goes a little bit along with the selfishness, is when we act out of emotions. Now remember, our emotions register before our thoughts usually. And we don't even really realize that the thought is coming from a sensation that we're experiencing in our body. And that sensation is tied to an emotion. So let's say you have a habit of feeling guilty, or you have a habit of feeling shameful. That feeling is going to come up. And before you know it, you're going to make a behavior out of that feeling. In other words, I used to, always run to do things for my kids because I felt guilty. I didn't want them to feel anything bad. And so all these things that I was doing for them was betraying myself, because then I wasn't able to spend the time that I needed to do things, whether it was prepping for a meeting or whether it was taking a nap, whatever it was. Immediately, you feel the guilt and then you just behave out of it. You don't stop to say, wait a minute, when I do something out of guilt or out of a fear that I'm selfish or out of a fear that I'm not enough, that is a betrayal of myself, because of course you're enough. Of course you're enough. That's a message that is outdated, that your mind is telling you that you're not enough and that you need to feel guilty for some reason. It is a huge way that people abandon themselves. And remember, every time you abandon yourself, every time you betray yourself, you are undermining your authentic self and your well-being. And there are massive consequences to that, not the least of which we've discussed are anxiety and depression and exhaustion and overwhelm. Okay, here's a good one. Another example of self-abandonment and self-betrayal is when you defer to other people. Now, I am the queen of this. I've spent decades writing a book. And every time I get to a place of I'm ready to do something with it, I go and I ask someone. I ask someone to edit it. I ask someone to look at it. I ask someone what I should do. And they tell me what they think. And then I defer to them. I have a book that I have written 3 times in different voices because the person reading it said X, Y, or Z. So ask yourself, how much do you defer to other people? This could be as simple as I want Chinese food, but someone else wants Indian. And you don't take a moment to really check in with yourself and ask, wait a minute, am I okay with Indian? Is that okay with me? that's an act of self-betrayal. These little things, they chip away and cause us to be depleted and to feel all of the emotions that you don't want to feel, and to get out of alignment and to not really be clear on what it is that you want in your life. So, hey, are you relating to any of these? If you are, please comment, and please like or subscribe if this is helpful to you, because that is the greatest gift you can give back for learning something that's been helpful to you today. The last type of self-betrayal I want to talk about here is when we do something to gain appreciation of someone else. Now, most people will say, and you might be one of them, I don't do that. I don't do things to gain appreciation or to be validated by someone else. But if you really look deep, you're going to find that you do, because we all do. It's human nature, right? So look at the things that you're doing that unconsciously, unawares to you, just like brushing your teeth, that you're doing because you want an accolade or because you want to be seen or heard or appreciated. When you do that, it is a form of self-abandonment. Why? Because you don't need to do any of that to be worthy. You don't need to do that to be enough. So when you do something unconsciously because you want to be appreciated or you want someone to notice you, what you're doing is you are abandoning yourself. You're getting further from clarity. You're creating anxiety and self-doubt in yourself. You're being inauthentic, and you are draining your resources. Now, understand that we are all unaware of these things. There's no way to be aware of everything. It doesn't matter how self-aware you are. So this takes practice. Be kind and be gentle with yourself. I want you to feel proud of who you're being and the way you're showing up in the world, whether it's at home or at work. I wasn't taught this in psychotherapy school. This came with years and years of hard-won labor. Now, let's say you didn't know any of this and you've been abandoning yourself and betraying yourself for eons, and you are stuck now with a truckload of resentment, because that's what happens when you self-abandon or self-betray over time. If that's the case and you have no idea how to get rid of this resentment, then go ahead and watch my video called This Will Kill You, and it's going to tell you all the resentment hacks you need to clear up your emotional energy in a jiffy.